Welcome to Art 1400. Today we're going to be working on drawing shapes, and the shapes that we're going to draw are going to involve curved lines, and sometimes the objects that we draw need multiple pieces in order to be able to complete them and make them look successful as far as what we're trying to accomplish. So the first thing you'll need to do, instead of opening a new document, you'll need to go to the blog, and you're going to need to download 1400 Curved Line Exercise. That's this file right here. You'll go to the course resources for 1400 online and download that, and when you've done that, come back and start the recording again. Welcome back. Today for working in Illustrator, we're going to need a number of things. You're going to have certain palettes open. One is going to be your tool palette. The next will be your align palette and your swatches palette. If you don't have those open, you can always go up to the window menu and get tools, align, and swatches, and those will help you out. Alright, the first thing we're going to do, let's grab our pen tool, and then pushing on our space and command key, we're going to zoom in on this section right here. Let me move these out of the way. The purpose of these crosshairs in here is simply to help us to be able to teach. What we're going to do first is draw a square, and we're going to use the pen tool. Now, we've done this a little bit already before, I believe, but we're going to do it for review. If we click here, then we'll come over here and click again at the top right, come down here, click bottom right, come over here, click bottom left, and then we always come up and complete the same place that we started. So we've got 4 sides to that square. If we want to change our fill color from white, we can either just click on the red, or we can drag a color into that box, or drag a color, probably not the same color, drag a color over here into our fill color. Okay. Now, the purpose of using this tool, or what we're going to try to do right now, is to be able to make some curves. In order to make curves, we will use the Convert Anchor Point tool. That's this tool right here in our family of tools. We'll just tear that off, so we've got all 3 of them. We've talked, I believe, about the plus and the minus symbols. The plus symbol on here will allow us to add an anchor point, and then we can get our white line. Now we have to push that anchor point directly over a path to add it. The minus will allow us to remove it like that. We actually don't ever have to select those tools. We can just simply have the pen tool selected, and when we've got an active line like we have here, we can click, and that will allow us to create an anchor point on there. And then by putting that pen directly over the top of an anchor point, or an active anchor point, it will give us a minus symbol, and we can remove that. Now, sometimes we want to convert things, or we want to change them from their state. Right now, this anchor point has 2 straight lines associated with it. We want to change that to be curved. So we're going to get our Convert tool. We're going to click and drag that shape. That will allow us to convert. Now we can grab individual portions of that. Those move together if we have the wide arrow and we drag them. We can grab the wide arrow and we can get those handles and have those move out farther and increase how graceful our curve is. We can also get our Convert tool and click on that handle and drag it separately, or drag it independent of our other handles. We can even drag it back into its own original anchor point and get rid of that completely. If we want to make those lines straight again, we'll simply bring the Convert tool over the top of that anchor point, click, and it will remove it. If we want to add them again, we just click and drag. Now, we never have to actually get to this anchor point at all, or get to this Convert tool at all. If we're on the pen tool, when we push our Option key and hold that down, it will automatically change that to a Convert key, and then a Convert tool, and that will allow us to make those changes. So, what we want to do, though, a lot of times it just takes a lot of time to draw all of these paths, or to draw curves. Come back, draw your straight lines, and then draw curves on top of them. If I want to come in and make this a curve or a circle, I've got to come back in, I've got to select them, and make those handles bigger by dragging them. And then if I want to change it so it looks like a cookie that has a bite out of it, I've got to push the Option key and click and drag and make that change like that. Now that's great, and we can make shapes with that, but the problem is we don't actually get it takes us too long to get the shape that we want to do. Design and the creative industry typically works on a time, it doesn't work by the hour, you work by the project. And so the faster you can get something done, the more you're going to get paid for that time. And the more time you have left over for skiing or snowboarding or other homework or stuff like that. So anyway, let's talk about how we can make curves on the fly rather than having to come back to them. We're going to do that first. What I want you to do is scroll down. We're going to look at these 3 anchor points. Now normally this would be what we would make a triangle with. We just click here, 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 and then finish up right there. So we've got our triangle. Well, that's not the case here. What we're going to do is make a crescent moon. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to come up here and click and drag. And then when I come here, my line is automatically going to curve. Because I have a handle here, it's going to force this line to curve right there. Just like this line right here is forced to curve by this handle, this line is going to curve here. Okay? And then I can come in here, and to make a crescent moon, I'll click, and I'm going to drag up in there like that. Now, it's not often you see crescent moons at that face. Maybe we'll call that a mustache. I don't know. But we've got this shape here now that we've created on the fly. Well, that's great because it makes it easier to go quickly, but part of the problem is each of these work together, and we want them to work independently. We want to do it much faster. So we're going to do it a different way. If you'll all hit backspace a couple times and delete it. We're now going to start here. We'll come up here and click and drag. And when we do that, after we've done that, we want to get rid of this extra handle. So we're going to come here and click, and it will remove that extra handle. You'll notice you get a little convert symbol by the pen as you do that. We'll come down here and we're going to click and drag. Whoop, dragged a little too far. We'll come here, put our pen tool right over that anchor point. You'll see the little convert tool. We'll get rid of that extra handle. Now we'll come in here, click and drag, put our pen tool over the anchor point and get rid of that extra handle. And then finally we're going to come to the finish spot and we're going to click and drag. And that will give us 4 different curves and 4 different handles associated with those individual lines. See, if I move this handle now, it doesn't move anything over here, it doesn't move anything over here. If I want to adjust the curve of this line, I'm going to click here or here, and I can move that around, and it won't affect any other curved line. So each handle now has its own, each curve has its own handle associated with it, and exclusive to that curve. And that's really great because what that does is it gives us more control over our shape. So we're going to delete that. Let's go a little further, and feel free to stop this and review if you need to. Right now, we're going to use this set of 5 registration points here, and this is going to help us to draw a series of waves. Now waves are very interesting because they have a set trough and they have a crest, and we want a dramatic sort of shape change between those, and so by getting rid of those extra handles it will make it much easier. So if I click here, I come up here and click and drag up. Now notice that curve will follow opposite of the direction that I'm going. Then I click on that anchor point and get rid of the original one. That will give me a dramatic change in direction when I come down here and click. See how quickly that will change that? Now if I had left this handle here and clicked here, I'd have this really kind of distorted shape, and I don't want that. Rather, if I get rid of that extra handle, I can come down here and click and drag so that I have a nice curve there. Now what do I want to do? Well, I want to come back here and click and drag on that. Or not drag, I mean just click on it to get rid of that extra handle. Then I'll come up here and click and drag and get rid of the extra handle. And I'll come down here and click and drag so that I can create that nice wave shape. Now if I were just to click right here on the starting point, which is how I always finish a object shape, if I click there, my line is actually, because of this handle, going to weave around like this, and I don't want that. I want it to come straight across. So I'll click on this handle, or on the anchor point, get rid of that extra handle. Now I can come over here and get rid of that. And now I've got a single shape that has really nice directional changes in it, and also has individual handles that will go in and adjust what those shapes are going to look like, and I have a little more control over them. Okay, let's go down now a little farther. Right here, we're going to see a diamond shape. Now what we're actually going to draw is a cookie that has a bite taken out of it, because everybody likes cookies. So we'll start here. We'll count this as 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, and that will be your references that I'll point to. Starting out, we're going to start at 12 o'clock and we're going to create an anchor point. Now, if I just draw a line, if I just click at 3 o'clock right now, I'm going to get a straight line. But if I click and drag, it's going to give me a specific curve. Now I'm going to drag out so that I get the bite taken out of my cookie. Once I've done that, I'm going to click on the anchor point, get rid of the extra handle. Now we'll come in here to the 6 o'clock, and I'm going to click and drag, only this time I'm going to drag an opposite direction so that that curves around like that. Now I'll get rid of, if I click on 9, I'm going to automatically get a curve because I've got this handle there. The disadvantage of doing that is that as I move one of these, the other line is going to move. And so I want to get rid of that extra handle. And I'll come right here, and I'm going to click and drag. And then I'll get rid of that handle. And if I just click at 12 o'clock right now, I can have a straight line. This gives us sort of an indication of that. So I don't want it to be a straight line, I want it to be curved. So I also have to click and drag here in order to be able to establish that shape. Now, each one of those anchor points, or each one, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, each one of those lines works independently. You don't have to worry about any other part getting messed up or anything like that as you're working on it. You can take a bite out of the bottom of the cookie if you want. Okay? So by clicking and dragging, and then going back to that individual anchor point, you will have more control over the shape that you draw. Okay? Also, by being careful and trying to get as long a line as possible, you're going to get a more graceful curve. If I try to make a curve like this, and then I come here and try that, and here, and then I come up here, and then I come here, I'm not going to get as graceful a curve right here as I am if I start at 6 o'clock and go to 9 like that. I'm going to have a really nice curve here, whereas here it's going to be lumpy, or here it's going to be really bad. Okay? Alright, so we're going to stop this. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about how to draw an illustration now using the different objects or different shapes that we're going to draw. So I'm going to close this, and we'll be back in a second.